Yo, what's going on, snipers, and welcome back to our Anchorage Ice Tigers Draft Order franchise mode here in NHL 23. So I am pre-recording this episode a little bit ahead of time just because of the fact I really want to see how this team does this season again as per usual. Because last episode we made some very tough decisions with this team. We let go of Bickle, which is probably the hardest decision I've had to make with this team so far. But our team still looks pretty good on paper, especially because Darby, since we drafted him a few years ago, he's now taking over that second line spot. And then Hartnell has jumped up to the top line. So basically, our top six still looks really good for the most part. Our third line also looks not too bad. And then luckily for us, guys like Larry Wong, who was a 4th rounder, and I believe he was supposed to go in the 7th round, has jumped into the NHL as a 79 overall at 22, and he's at 20, not at 22, at 20 as a low lead. So he's going to be our 4th line center behind Claxton, Zikov, and Keith. So I think we have one of the best center cores in the entire league in terms of guys that could win face-offs. Claxton's not the best at draws, but everybody else is decent. Wong doesn't really win a lot of face-offs, it seems like, so we might have to make him a winger instead at some point, but basically our team looks pretty good. We did also draft this LaRose guy in the last episode, so excited to see what this guy could do. Obviously, we could alternate between where him and Walzer play. And then defensively, our defensive core still looking really, really strong, especially that top 4. And then I'm deciding to play Strachan for half the season, and then half the season more we will play Kalinin as the top 6 pairing defender, just to see who is better for the playoffs. And then, yeah, Cox is the starter. And we also decided to let go in last episode Harry Neal, so Aiden Tays will be taking over the backup role. This guy looks pretty solid. He was really good at the AHL level, like even when the team was not doing too well, like not making the playoffs. He was posting like 915s and 916 save percentages, so I think this guy is going to have a solid year as a backup, even though he's already 24. And yeah, we have these guys scratched, but like Cassian's a good 4th liner if we want to make changes to the 4th line. And like I said, Kalinin will likely play half the season. And then you can see in the AHL we do still have some pretty solid players that have potential, like Byron Farrell, who might eventually make it to our team. And yeah, there's a little bit of a lack of prospects in a sense on forwards, so hopefully we can draft some more of those next offseason. We do also have depth goaltending in Kurt Duncan, who has medium elite potential, but took a very long time to develop, and now he's a 78, so he could actually play backup if we really need him to. Also, I just realized Danner is scratched, which he definitely shouldn't be. Let me actually go best lines down here in the minors. Get that reworked. Okay, that's better, I think. Because Danner was a low lead that we drafted in the 2nd round. He's an OFD. So excited to see what that guy can do in the AHL. He's also getting some power play time now, so that should definitely help us out down there in the minors, and hopefully those guys get some growth because we definitely could use that. So yeah, very excited for the season to see what this team could do. Obviously last year we won the President's Trophy and then we're ousted in the 1st round by the Vegas Golden Knights. And now that we don't have Bickle, this team might be a little bit worse offensively, but hopefully this team can still win a lot of games and hopefully have a better successful playoffs. Bickle signed with Dallas, so we won't have to play him that much this season, I guess. I feel like 2 or 3 times. We actually play them pretty early on, which is kind of interesting. And it's in Dallas, so Bickle's going to get a chance to play us pretty early on. Oh yeah, I'm going to take a look at the new guys first. But our preseason was 5-2-1. That's pretty good. Jorgensen, 10 points in 8 games. His contract comes to an end this offseason, which is kind of scary. So we are going to have some big guys to re-sign again this offseason, and that's why letting go of guys like Bickle was important. Because Jorgensen, how much does he want right now? He already wants $13 million, so hopefully that price comes down, because or else he might be gone too. But at least we have a lot of RFAs that we can re-sign multiple times. And Festerini thinks that he's worth $9 million right now, so we might end up losing a lot of players this offseason, which is kind of scary. So this might be one of our last windows to win a Stanley Cup, and you never really know. But let's take a look at those new guys on our team and what they look like on paper in terms of their faces and stuff. So we'll start off with Larry Wong, the 4th rounder. See what his face looks like before we actually start up the season sim. So this is what he looks like. Wearing number 98. What is his hairstyle? Pretty basic, nothing too special. But yeah, he is our 4th line center. Hopefully he could continue to be hopefully he could be a good defensive forward for us. Looks like he had a pretty good preseason. Yeah, he had pretty good preseason, 4 assists in 8 games. Don't think he's going to be the best offensive player, but he's going to definitely help out that penalty kill, I think. And then we also have, for new players, LaRose, who we drafted in the first round. We'll see how good this guy looks. Okay, he's got the stash going. Kind of looks like an old school player, kind of almost like Brian Trottier, I could say. That's not bad. So there's a LaRose. Definitely doesn't look like he's only 18. Yeah, 18. And then also, we do have our new backup goaltender, Aiden Tays. Well, not really new, because he's been in the AHL for a number of years, but this kid is definitely getting a chance to play in the NHL this year, and he's got some spiky hair, so this guy might be, maybe he's like going to be like a Jordan Binnington, where he's kind of like a character, I don't know, but still, he's got some cool hair. We'll see what he could do as a backup to Sean Cox this season. And very excited to see what Cox could do this year. He's kind of played like in a role between starter and kind of like alternating with Neil last season. So this is going to be his first test of action to being a starting goalie. And we will have to re-sign him to a big contract when that ends because of the fact he's already in 84, which is kind of nuts. But yeah, let's see how the season goes. I'm going to predict right now still like around 50-something wins, so similar to what we had last year. You guys should just drop your predictions down below. Also, drop down your predictions as well if you want to on who you think the leading point getter on this team is going to be. Because since we let go of Bickle, who is going to be our leading point guy? I feel like it's going to be probably somebody like Parrott. That's my guess. But we'll see what happens. Obviously, if this team's not doing too well in terms of the simulation, we could make coaching changes and whatnot and line adjustments. Actually, I want to go to the halfway point of the season, remember, because I want to change the defender. So we should probably just go to January 1st and see where we are at in terms of games, and then we'll make that defensive change so both Strachan and Kalinin get exactly 50% of the games. But yeah, the team's off to a good start, as you would expect. We have 8 wins in our first 10 games. Yeah, this is exactly what I was expecting from this team, to get off to a good start. But hopefully it's not a President's Trophy curse year again, because winning that President's Trophy feels like it guarantees you almost a first-round exit, which I don't like, really. So, but yeah, hopefully this team has a good year in terms of the playoffs and all that stuff. Like, hopefully it's better than last year at least, but still, I would rather get to all the way to the Cup Finals and win that Stanley Cup right now, because we do not have a huge window of opportunity to win a cup in these drafted glories, so we are suffering quite a bit of losses as of late, so at least that means we probably won't win the President's Trophy. Yeah, I don't think we're going to win the President's Trophy this year. Even though we're winning a good amount of games out of the gate, I feel like it's good that we're kind of losing games as well, because that shows that we're kind of more of a team that's maybe contending and not being like a championship caliber team. I don't know. 24-11-1 though is really good. We just came off a 9-0 shutout win over St. Louis, and Jorgensen's leading with 45 points in 36 games. That's not good really in a sense, because now he's going to probably demand a lot of money this offseason because of the fact his contract comes to an end. Like, I was hoping that he would drop his asking price, but we honestly might end up losing him as well, just because he might demand way too much money. 13.5 is still good-ish, but I have all these other guys that are important. Like, the RFAs, at least I have flexibility over, but I don't want to lose, like, the depth scoring with, like, Festorini and stuff like that. But we might lose Kalinin this offseason because of the fact he is a pending UFA, so there might be some changes to the defensive core. Let's get 5 more games done, because then we'll be at 41 games end the season, and then we will change up the defensive core on that top 6 pairing and put Kalinin in for Strachan. So we want to get through all the way up to the 11th, and it will be exactly halfway through the season. But so far, it looks like our offense is doing really well, even without Bickle, which is nice. So 26-13-2, not too bad. We are in a wild card spot. That's interesting. Jorgensen's on pace for 102 points, which is pretty absurd. So he's definitely going off the captain this year. Let's make our adjustment to our defensive core. We won't take a look at the stat line yet from Strachan, just because I want to save that for the end of the season. So there you go. Kalinin is now going to play the rest of the regular season, and whoever has the better season is going to be starting in the playoffs. And yeah, Strachan's cap hit, I don't really know if it was a good move signing him as long as I did, because he's making like 2.65 to sometimes play like a season, sometimes not. Well, let's go right to the end of the season. We are probably going to be a playoff team, even if we're in a wild card spot, but Yeah, this team is doing good, which is what I like to see. If Jorgensen does break 100 points this year, though, that would be quite surprising. I have had some draft glory players, I think, in the past hit over 100 points, like I believe Jaskalainen did, but I don't think I ever had anybody else do that. I don't think Gene Thornton ever did that. But yeah, this team is definitely playoff bound. We're scoring a lot of goals in some of these games, also having some strong defensive efforts. So yeah, this is a good season. It's kind of scary if we end up somehow winning a President's Trophy in this, because we could honestly with a bunch of wins in a row. And Dallas has fired their head coach, which means they're probably not having a good season after like signing Bickle, which is not good for Bickle. He might be having a rough year so far with his new club, or his new club's not having a good year. I don't know. Now let's get past this trade deadline, because we do not care about the deadline whatsoever. But we already have 41 wins at the deadline, which is kind of nice. Boston's acquired 2 prospects, I guess, in a second for Malachi Gallant. Damn, that guy already got dealt. If you guys remember, that was somebody I believe we could have drafted in the top 5. He gets dealt before he turns, I think, 25. My guess. That's an interesting one. So Malachi Gallant's gone already from Boston. So Boston must be having a tough time, or they don't think they're going to be able to re-sign him. Wow, we just smoked Dallas 7-1. So poor Bickle. He leaves the team and he gets absolutely manhandled. But it's kind of good that we're having those games that we lose like 8-5 in, because then maybe we're going to be a good playoff team. I don't know who's in net for those games, if it's Taze or Cox, though. If Taze is having a good backup season, Taze might start in the playoffs randomly. Who knows? Because I don't really care who starts in the playoffs, but 10-5 loss in our last game of the season, that might be a good sign. That we just lost 10-5 in the last game of the season, because maybe that means we're going to have a good playoff run. But we finished 53-24-5. I believe last season we had 53 wins as well. And Derek Keith led the team in points with 93 points in 82 games. So no 100-point guys, so we must have had really good depth scoring. But we do finish 3rd in our division. But also we finished, like, geez, the Maple Leafs had 125 points. Wow, a lot of teams in our division had 110 plus points. That's actually absurd. Like a wild card spot in our division. Is it a wild card spot? Yeah, I think, yeah, it would be considered a wild card spot in our division. Had 110 points. That's absurd. Let's take a look at those team stats first. And we'll take a look at the player stats. But what an insane year. Nonetheless, so yeah, Toronto finished 1st. We finished 4th best in the league, tied with the Vegas Golden Knights, who knocked us out last year in the first round. Interesting. Goals for per game, we were the 2nd best offensive team in the league behind the Toronto Maple Leafs, who had 320 goals. Also, they had 14 more points than us, so they won 7 more games around. Well, 6 more games. And had a couple extra OT losses. Goals against per game wise, we were not that good defensively, I guess. I know we were still one of the best defensive teams. 3 goals, not bad. Power play percentage, our power play was one of the best in the league as well, kind of mid-table. So having mid-table things is kind of good, because we could all of a sudden just tear it up in the playoffs. Like, I feel more confident with this season than I did last year with the President's Trophy win. As weird as that sounds. So yeah, our penalty kill, not that great, but that's okay. Could turn it on in the playoffs. Only 2 short-handed goals, 28-10-3 on home ice, and 25-14-2 on the road. 6-3-1 in our last 10 games. Not too bad. Let's take a look at these player stats, because I am very excited for this portion. So starting off, Derek Keith, 93 points in 82 games. What a season for the 23-year-old. He's been still getting better every single year. How is his face-off numbers and stuff like that? Is he a Selke candidate this year? 54.37, so he is getting a little bit better on the draw from last year, but when he won the Selke, he had 56% on the draw, so might be up there for the Selke depending on his takeaway count, which 143 takeaways to me makes me sound like he's on the cusp of another Selke, depending on how other players are around the league. But last year he only had 64 takeaways. This year he had 143. So maybe the team's a lot better around him as well in that sense. But there you go, Derek Keith, really good season. And we have him still locked up for 5 more years. Well, 4 more seasons, I guess. But we definitely need to keep that guy around if we can. Avery Parrott, 80 points, 46 goals this year. His contract ends in 3 years. I'm glad I still have him around at least, because he scores a lot of goals. Moving out, Parrott has helped him in terms of goal scoring because that was a career high, it looks like. Yeah, good to see Parrott step it up with the loss of a goal scorer. Yeah, not too bad. Ricardo Hartnell, 72 points in his third season, 35 goals, 37 assists. That's a really good season from him. We gave him top line time, and he has run away with it. He's going to want a lot of money this offseason, but obviously we're going to have to keep on qualifying him. But he's been getting better every single year as well, which is nice. Zhukov, 65 points, 37 goals this year from Zhukov. Is he also in the Selke candidate role? 53.4% on the draw, so worse than Keith, and way worse on the takeaways, so no, I don't think he's going to be. Interesting. But yeah, Zhukov has still been just a really solid player for us. He only has one more year left, and hopefully that $12 million cap hit comes down a bit. Claxon, 40 points this year, not bad. Still glad I locked this guy long term because he's been a consistent producer. Well, kind of inconsistent at times, but he's still not a bad third line option. He's only 25. He's got 229 points in his career. Kind of helps out with the depth scoring on this team. And not a bad rookie season from Larry Wong. 15 goals and 20 points in 82 games. A -8, which is a bit questionable, but his defensive awareness is up to a 90. His stick checking's up to a 90. This guy could definitely help us out in terms of the defensive play on that fourth line. And yeah, his face-off numbers were pretty terrible because he actually doesn't have good face-offs, so we might have to play him as a winger. But still, very happy with that season from him. Darby hit 48 points this year, only 18 goals. But solid year. Less goals this season, but more assists by a long shot. Yeah, he's been pretty good. So there is Ted Darby. Festerini, 37 points. With his contract coming to an end, we might be able to get him on a cheaper deal because of the fact his point production is dropping off a lot. I hope at least we could get him for a good price. If he's still wanting like 5-6 million, it might be a bit steep, but it'd be nice to keep this guy around. Cox, 21 points, -10. I honestly might take him out for the playoffs and try casting instead. Jorgensen, 88 points this year. Really good season from Jorgensen, and he might want a lot of money. He's had 3 80-point seasons, so he's been actually really underrated. But back-to-back seasons where he's been a plus player. How's that takeaway count? 95 takeaways? No, not 95 takeaways. 61 takeaways. Thought he was better at takeaways before, but I guess not. Still excited to see what he could do in the playoffs. Hopefully we could get him back in the offseason. Walzer hit 18 goals this year. He's still been largely disappointing, I'd say. But he's still at least giving us depth scoring, and that's something that we could use for sure. So there you go on Walzer. And LaRose, 23 points in his rookie season, a -15. He's still a 76. We might move him up on the line and move Walzer down. I don't really know. But I mean, he had only 106 shots this year, so he's only shooting like he's only shooting like around a couple shots a game at most, like maybe 1 to 2 shots. Defensively, this is where it helped us out quite a bit. Coley, -61 points this year. Yeah, this guy eventually is going to be so expensive. He's listed now as a top 2 defenseman, so we should probably lock him up soon because he's still an RFA. And he's been getting better every year. His defensive stats went down, it looks like a little bit, but not bad. Zhukov, 51 points. He's still listed as a top 2, so our defensive core is probably what's making our team look better than they are, in a sense. I don't really even know. Harakala, 33 points. Harakala's been kind of disappointing offensively at times, but last season he was a little bit better. Moroza, 28 points, +21 like that. Farrell, 23 points, +19. And interestingly enough, Kalinin was the better of the two. Both of them are +10 in 41 games, though. And then Kalinin had just more points. But Strachan was shooting 28.6%, which is kind of funny. They both had right around the same amount of ice time as well. Who blocked more shots and stuff like that? Strachan more hits. More block shots from Kalinin. I'll probably end up leaving it up to you guys on who we play in the playoffs. Yeah, I really don't know who I want to start in the playoffs. It's up to you guys. And then goalie-wise, pretty good season from Cox. 39, 17 and 4, 4 shutouts, and 903 and a 2.89. And then Taze kind of struggled. He had 1 shutout, which is good as the backup. But yeah, definitely not the same type of numbers as he was having in the AHL. But maybe he'll be good in the playoffs if we give him a chance. Both of them had an assist this season. So there you go. So there is our players. Let's take a look at the entire league as well, because I am curious on this as well. So the best offensive player was Austin Matthews with 107 points. And who also was up there. Oh wow, Derek Keith was top 5 in points. Didn't even realize that. That's pretty impressive for a two-way forward. Right, he's a two-way, right? Yeah, okay. Most goals this season, Nathan McKinnon with 50 goals, and then Malachi Gallant, who was dealt at the deadline, was the next closest. He's 27 actually now, so never mind, but yeah, he was dealt mid-season, and he really helped out the Devils, so the Devils might be a really good contender this season. Interesting. Yeah, he was only signed for 1 more year, so that's why Boston decided to flip him away. Most assists this season was Derek Keith. Nice to see that. Yeah, Derek Keith is a really good player in this franchise mode. Might be one of the better players. Most game-winning goals for fun, Nathan McKinnon. Most power play goals, Melvin Lowry, who we could have drafted at some point, but he had 19 power play goals, which is crazy. Most power play points, Trafford in Arizona. Most shorthanded goals, Jack Roslovic had 6 shorthanded goals. Most shorthanded points, Jonathan Berggren with 8. Interesting. Let's take a look at those Selke candidates, because I am curious on Keith's chances. Okay, yeah, Keith is going to win the Selke, I think. Actually, maybe not. No, he's probably not. Unfortunately, they're going to probably give it to Quinton Byfield because that percentage on the faceoffs is better. He took more faceoffs, he had a better percentage, and then he also had 3 more takeaways. So, yeah, unfortunately, I think Byfield is going to just edge out Keith, unfortunately, but you never know. He had 5 fights this season as well, apparently, which is kind of funny. So, yeah, unfortunately, I think he's going to just be edged out. The most hits for fun, Archer in Montreal. Block shots by Ford, Aho in Carolina. Giveaways, Leclerc in Montreal. Takeaways, as we were saying, Byfield. And most fights, Numanen in Tampa Bay had 30 fights this season. Jeez. Okay, best defenseman for points. Here's on that. Adam Fox with 75 points, then Quinn Hughes with 72, and Clark with 71. Essi Kolamainen was actually up there, top 6 in defensive points, which is pretty impressive. That's probably the highest we've seen in one of our defenders. Best goalie in terms of wins this season, Carter Hart in Toronto, not a surprise, with 51 wins. Arvid Holm randomly was up there with 42, and Ratzlav with 40. Cox was up there with 39. Most shutouts, Colton Ellis and Sjogard and Ottinger with all 8. Best save percentage by a starter, Sjogard with 921 save percentage. Yeah, I think Sjogard's easily the Vezina winner. Yeah, he definitely is. He had the best goals against, and he played also a lot of games. Maybe a little bit lack of wins, but really good numbers for him. Most assists from a goalie for fun. 5 assists from Schenkel. And no goalie goals. Best rookie this year for points was Daniel DeRocher with the Colorado Avalanche. 65 points this year. Interesting. Coming off some really good AHL years. And yeah, there he is. He was a low elite that went in the 7th round, and he's going to win the Calder. That's actually really cool. I don't think I've ever seen a 7th rounder win the Calder. Edging out Harding, Carl, and a few others. So there's that. So that's good. Let me actually take a quick look at our AHL team, because I do want to take a look at our AHL team as well. Pierce Hall is really too good for the AHL, but he's not good enough for the NHL. It's unfortunate. Looks like the AHL team had an okay year, though. All things considered. How was the defender, the low elite? 22 points, up to a 72, not bad. Was expecting a little bit more from him. And Duncan was really good this year, so we could always call up Duncan for the playoffs as well if we want to, but don't know if I will do that or not. So there is that. What else do we want to see? Oh yeah, I guess who we're going to be playing in the playoffs. Who are we going to be playing in the playoffs? It is going to be the Vegas Golden Knights, of course. Of course, and we don't have home ice advantage because of how crazy our division was. So after winning the President's Trophy last year, we were ousted by Vegas in 6 games. Looks like next episode we are going to be trying to get redemption for that and take on Vegas in their home building and try and give them a little bit of a tough time. Interesting. The other playoff matchups, in case you guys want to know: Toronto versus Tampa Bay in the East, as well as Montreal, Ottawa, Pittsburgh, and Florida, and Rangers and Columbus. And in the West, it's us in Vegas, Vancouver and Seattle, St. Louis and Anaheim, Minnesota and Nashville. Let's take a look at those lines for Vegas again, see if they made any changes. I believe last year they had a good mix of veterans and youth, so I'm not sure if any of those veterans retired or not. And it looks like it's similar, but it looks like they must have lost like Mark Stone, but they do have still Ehlers and Eichel, who are both pretty old at this point. Mangone, who's still a really solid young player. Daniel Gushin, was he there last year? No, he wasn't. So they brought in this guy. He had 52 points on their second line. J.C. Buckley definitely was still there last season. Yeah, he was. And Jackson Kidd. Oh, yeah, that's right. So, yeah, we got to contain Buckley, Kidd, Eichel, and Mangone for sure. How much points did Kidd have this year? 65 points. He's not the best elite player, but he probably plays good in the playoffs. He has actually gold shutdown, which is kind of weird for a two-way forward. I don't think I've seen that on a forward before. I think I've seen shutdown on a defenseman, but not forward. They also have Eric Culp, who is just almost... Yeah, he played last season with them, but he's just getting to the NHL pretty much. They also have Jesper Lilia still. And yeah, that center depth is nasty for the top three lines, kind of like ours. It's better, though, by a long shot, overall-wise. They also have Callum Ritchie, who I don't think was with them last season. Yeah, he was not with them last season, but he had 61 points, which I would never have guessed considering he's a 79. And a fourth line of Jan Yannick, who I don't think was there. No, he wasn't there last season either. Or no, he was there. No, he wasn't. He was not even playing at all last season. But Minnesota signed him. He had a good start, and then he got traded to Vegas. They also have Cole Leddy, who was there last season, I think, and Ross Colton. Defensively, Keandre Miller. Did they bring in Keandre Miller? Yes, they brought in Keandre Miller from Colorado, and he had a really good year, playing with his former New York Rangers friend in Adam Fox, who's been really good. He was there last season here. Cale Fleury, Nick Hague is back. Was he there last season? Yeah, and he was not. So he returned to Vegas. Interesting. To end his career, pretty much. And then a top six pairing of Dean Sharp and Robin Salo. So they went through some changes, it looks like. And goalie-wise, they have Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, who was not there last year. They signed him as a free agent. He had a really good regular season. And then Vasilevsky is still there, but he is now their backup, and he is still winning games and playing decently, it looks like. He was the goalie that eliminated us last season. They also have Silas Beckett as a depth guy, Rem Pitlick, and Ridley Grieg. Interesting. What's the overall differences on paper? And also take a look at how they did during the regular season, and that'll be it for this episode. And just curious on what it gives our ratings and stuff like that compared to theirs. Let's see. We got 93, 93, 81. It says that we're only better than them defensively. They're 93, 87. So we're tied with them offensively. We're better than them defensively. And then their goaltending is a little bit better than ours. So I think we definitely have the upper hand. But we got to shut down, obviously, their big guns. Also, how did they do in the regular season in terms of stuff like that? Like power play and all that. And then that'll be it for this episode. So we tied in points, which is interesting. We scored more goals than them by 8, but we finished below them in the standings technically. They were better defensively by quite a bit. They were better also on the power play, and they're also better on the penalty kill. So they have better special teams, pretty much better in everything in the regular season, but we finished with the same amount of points, and we don't have home ice advantage. Hopefully that means we get past this first round, and hopefully we could beat whoever else is in our path. But anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this episode of our Anchorage Ice Tigers Draft to Glory franchise mode. So next episode, we will take it to round 1 as we look to get redemption on the Vegas Golden Knights and find ourselves in the second round. Send anything down below, and I'll see you guys next time.